You know what this one felt like? It felt like that San Antonio Spurs game a few weeks back, the first time we played them. Just, it felt very, very reminiscent of that because just bad. The Knicks had no energy. The energy was just low. You could tell they were tired. Very tired. Just very slow out the gate. Lazy possessions and just getting out hustled in some parts. The effort wasn't totally awful, but it wasn't like a mental effort. It was more just guys looked a little fatigued. Which I'm not going to sit here and blame on coaching. I'm just going to sit here and say that's just the ups and downs of the NBA season. But yeah, I mean, Washington was on fire from the get-go, and the Knicks end up losing this one at the Garden. And we'll talk about all of it. Episode 467 of the podcast. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, RJ, and let's get into it. Hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to BD4, an RJ Carbone podcast. BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. BD4 is a 5-star show on Apple Podcasts, also available in video format on YouTube and Spotify. So thanks for stopping by, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Champion of the world, turning, looking, see ya! Anthony for three, bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied! Time! Penetrates, creates, and showing some dexterity as well with the left hand. Yankees win!
Welcome to the show. Welcome. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, episode 467 of the podcast. Now I'm going to let you know, if you were watching the video format of the show today, whenever it is you are listening to this, it should be January 19th by the time this is out, maybe the 20th. But I am watching the Golden State Boston game, so if I look up from the camera, if I turn my head every once in a while, I'm just watching the game. That is if you're watching the video format of the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. We do Yankees every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Which there are some big cards coming up for the UFC. A lot of news going around lately. Obviously, the Dana White shit. This power slap thing started up. The John Jones news, the Francis Ngannou news. You know, a lot of stuff going on. We've got some good pay-per-views coming up. Sean Strickland just had an impressive win. Dude's got 4 wins at 4 different weight classes now. He's awesome. Guy's a savage. So we're going to talk some UFC pretty soon on the show here, so look forward to that. As for the Yankees, it'll still probably be a few weeks before we do our next episode. Could have a guest on when we do. But we're talking Knicks. All right, we're talking Knicks, and this is episode 467 of the podcast. Welcome to BD4. So as we said at the top of the show, yeah, the Knicks just looked very lazy out the gate. Washington was on fire to start this one. The Knicks were the exact opposite. You know, kind of just giving you those vibes that this thing was never really happening. The Knicks were never winning this game. The Wizards got off to this 14-3 start, stretched that out to 22-8 in the first. The Knicks, they just looked off. Yeah, the Wizards ended up knocking down 7 3-pointers in the first quarter. They also made 7 twos in the first quarter as well. So they were getting to the line or getting to the rim, knocking down their threes. They scored 35 points in the first to the Knicks 22. Especially in the first, they were moving the ball exceptionally well, very quickly. And the Knicks, you could tell, were a step slow, rotating, trying to keep up. They were very late getting out. They weren't going over screens with any extra effort. And so that led to a lot of open looks, gave them too much room. And the remainder of the game was kind of just very much the same thing. You know, the Knicks would make a few, short-lived runs. But it felt like whenever they did, Washington would answer back with a bucket. Some drives and finishes, but a lot of dagger three-pointers. Just sticking a knife into the heart of the Knicks. Every time the Knicks seemed like they were going to cut into this deficit, big-time three-pointers from Washington. I mean, they were hitting shots from all over, and they were just able to maintain this double-figures lead for the most part. And, towards the end of the second quarter, the Knicks made a little bit of a run to cut into it, but Washington answered back after the break. End of the third quarter, kind of similar. Knicks get a few consecutive buckets. And at the beginning of the fourth, it kind of bridges into the fourth. Quickley has it rolling. He cuts the deficit to 7, but it never really came closer from there. That was as close as the Knicks would get. And then the Knicks would eventually fall 116 to 105 at Madison Square Garden. And that's where I want to start. Because I don't know what it is, man. And as you can tell by the title of this episode, the Knicks get embarrassed at home once again. I don't know what it is. But it's frustrating that we can't win games at what is supposed to be the biggest home court advantage in all the sport. And it's kind of been a last couple of years thing now, where we're having trouble winning at the Garden. But this season specifically, the Knicks are now 11-13 at Madison Square Garden. And I do wonder though, because it is a bad record at home, very bad. But do you think it's us as fans and the media putting too much into that? Or is it just that the Knicks are this 500 team, and if they were to win these home games, instead of 25-21, it'd make them an unrealistic 29-17? You know what I mean? It's just not realistic for the Knicks to win that many games overall with this roster. They're only... there's that stat. They are the only playoff contender of the 20 play-in/playoff teams right now that have a negative home record. But at the same time, they also have a better road record than every other team in the league, aside from the Boston Celtics. At the end of the day, their record is exactly where the majority of us expected it to be, maybe even slightly better. You know what I mean? So I just think that's the way basketball plays out. They just find themselves where they are. We are very good on the road and mediocre at home, giving us this slightly above average record with this slightly above average roster. Could that haunt us, not winning as many games in the at home in the playoffs? Do we get there? Sure. Good. But right now, I just think it's one of those things where it doesn't matter how you get there, just get there. And I just think, if you want to call it the basketball gods doing their job. If the Knicks were to take care of these home games, they'd be a top 4 team in the East. And is that really realistic? So that's my take on the whole not winning at home thing. While it is very annoying, I just think sometimes we just need to kind of zoom out and look at, us just as a team, as an overall record. I hope I made some sense there. I'm terrible at explaining some things, so I'm hoping that wasn't one of the times where I explained something very poorly. Anyways, I want to start off by giving, I hate doing it in a loss, but we do it every game. We're going to give our award to Jalen Brunson because, I thought his performance, I thought it was the best out of everyone on the Knicks last night. He wasn't perfect. He was not the greatest, but definitely better than everybody else. So he's going to get a game ball from me. Jalen Brunson.
Bing bang.
He scored 32 points last night, 4 assists, a couple of steals in there, 1 turnover, shot 11 out of 24, 2 of 3 from 3, 8 of 8 at the free throw line, where he's continuing to kill it. And he did so playing 38 minutes. You know, it was the usual on-ball stuff, applying pressure on the defense with, you know, his shiftiness and his crafty attacks. But he was knocking down the 3-ball. He was getting to the line, finishing well. He was more off and on last night with the jumper, with the shot overall. Wasn't moving the ball well and hasn't really been lately. He's just going with that ISO-heavy approach again. It is definitely a bit frustrating to see from your point guard. You know, I think he should definitely try getting others involved more lately. He can definitely do a better job there. However, I also think that a lot of it can be coaching. We can definitely be more dynamic offensively, open up the playbook, draw up some X's and O's, and we'll talk on that in a bit. But also, you know, the body movement, like the off-ball movement from other guys, while Brunson has the ball, that wasn't really there. Guys aren't cutting and screening as much as you want to see, and curling. It's not been there. The ball movement's been bad. But, you know, as far as Brunson's performance goes, it's going to take a lot for me to complain. Truly complain, like bitch and moan about Brunson, because he has been their best and most consistent, most efficient player all season. We needed point guard stability badly, and we got it. This is a guy who's always shooting over 50%. He's always keeping his turnovers at a minimum, 1 or 2 a game, sometimes less. And he's given you, at the end of the day, 5, 6, 7 dimes a night on average. He's a leader. He is very steady with the ball. He's their fourth quarter guy. I'm not going to complain too much that lately he's been going a little more ISO than we'd like. Anyways, that was Jalen Brunson's performance, and I think he deserved another game ball last night. He's now got 23 Bing Bong game balls on the year. 23. And for those of you who are new to the podcast, maybe a Bing Bong ball is what it's my own little award I give to one starter and one guy off the bench. The MVP of the starting unit, and I give it to the MVP of the bench unit. All right. That's basically it. So he leads the team with 23. And I thought he was great last night. Now, Quentin Grimes, will go on to him. I thought he was good. He scored 14 points, 1 steal, 1 turnover. He shot 5 of 10 from the floor, 3 of 7 from 3, and 1 of 2 at the free throw line. He played 31 minutes. I thought he struggled defensively. Had a tough time on Beal. Had a tough time on Kuzma. Beal ended up with 18. Kuzma 27. Both of them have the size advantage at the wing over someone like Quentin Grimes. There were also a lot of blow-bys between the two, just getting right past them. But he did shoot it very well. A lot of three-pointers last night from Grimes. I would have liked to see him get more looks still. You know, there's always the question, will more volume decrease the efficiency with Grimes? You know, that's always a question when you want guys to get more reps. I'm willing to find that out as opposed to keeping him as this fourth option. But again, we're gonna get to the way the Knicks run offense in a second. I want to talk on RJ Barrett before we do get to that part, and I want to finish out. We'll finish out the starting unit. Talk about RJ and Julius. Mitch didn't play; he left after a couple minutes. RJ Barrett was fine. I thought RJ was good. He scored 21 points, 6 rebounds, a couple assists, a steal, 4 turnovers. Shot 9 out of 21, 9 out of 17 though from 2, and 3 of 4 from the free throw line in 37 minutes. He was great in the first 3 quarters. You know, don't let the overall line change your opinion on how RJ played. That's why sometimes you got to watch and not just read the box score. RJ looked good for 3 quarters. I thought he was really showing great touch around the basket. He was attacking defenders well and had some very crafty, creative finishes off the glass. Looked good going downhill. But he did struggle in the fourth quarter again. And again, I'm not playing that BS blame game on the head coach. I just think it's just the ebbs and flows, right? But yeah, fourth quarter was more of a struggle. Washington started sending help to the rim, and RJ struggled finishing. And the jump shot just hasn't been there yet at all. He remains ice cold as a jump shooter since returning. He missed all 4 of his 3-point attempts. He also misfired on that little pull-up jumper near the top of the key. Defensively, I thought he struggled too. He gave up way too much space to Kuzma. Basically allowed him to pick his spots and use his size to beat RJ. But overall, again, it was a fine game from RJ. He ended up scoring 21, rebounding 6. Julius Randle, on the other hand, was pretty bad last night. He was pretty bad. 14 points, 16 boards, 4 assists, 6 of 17 shooting, 0 of 5 from 3, and 2 of 5 at the free throw line. Very inefficient across 34 minutes last night. Awful. And he's been pretty bad lately, too. 4 of his last 5 games have been below 50%. His last 2 games have been 35% in each of them. He's shooting 68% at the free throw line during this span. And in his last 6 games, he's just 23% on his threes, despite launching 7 a game. And he didn't really score at all in the game. The 14 points is actually better than it looked. Another example of actually watching the game as opposed to looking at the box score. He had 6 field goals in the entire game. I want to say at least 3 or 4 of them came in garbage time in like the last 3 minutes or so. Last 3 or 4 minutes. At least 3 or 4 of those baskets came when the game was well out of hand. So, I didn't like the offense. Defensively, I thought he played some pretty mediocre ball as well. Some bad switches that left Porzingis on a mismatch. He was late getting out on 3-pointers on both Porzingis and Kuzma. And one possession, I thought he got pretty lazy on a fast break where Porzingis threw one down. I will say he didn't force it offensively. You know, he got his teammates involved still. He allowed Brunson and RJ to do their thing. And he kept rebounding like an animal. He has been absolutely fantastic on the boards. That's now 6 consecutive games worth with at least 15 rebounds for Randle. That's impressive. Very, very good. But all in all, it was a bad game for sure from Randle. You know, dealing with fatigue like all players do at different points in the season. Sure, but again, that's where it stops. It's nothing deeper than that. But I want to talk about this offense, yes. Just give a couple opinions on it and what we might be able to do and, you know, basically play couch coach for a second, all right? We'll do that as soon as we get back from break. Stay with us. We'll be right there. Hey, guys, so if you are a listener of the podcast often, and you want to know where to find me on social media, you can find me on Facebook at BD4. You can find me on Twitter at BD4Pod. And you can also find me on Instagram at Rob J. Carbone. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to episode 467. 467 of the podcast. So, I mean, Knicks scored 105 points last night. They only had 14 total assists. 14. The league average for assists, I believe, for a team is to get 25 It's like around that number. It's either one less or one more. The Knicks finished with 14. And that's a trend. That's not just last night. It's kept getting worse of late. It's been around that number for a while. They're 28th overall in assists per game on the year with 22. In the last 5 games, they're dead last with 17 a game. In the last 10 games, they're dead last with 18 assists a game. How can we fix this? I'm sure some of it's personnel. We just don't have the talent. We don't have the knockdown shooters. We're a low 3-point shooting team. But it's not just assists. It's offensive fluidity. It's ball movement. It's player movement. It's screening, cutting, things like that. Right? And it's hard to say how to fix that. A lot of things can factor into that. And it's easy, again, for me to sit here and play couch coach, to tell Tibbs to play this guy, run it that way, this way. But after all, that is the only thing us as fans can do, right? That's why I'm here with the podcast stating my bullshit opinion that no one cares about. So, one of the first things I think we should try to do more is, I think it's very important that we try getting Quentin Grimes involved a lot more. Like, we need to feature our best 3-point shooter more than we do. For a team who can't shoot the 3 and has a guy who has potential to be a top 3-point guy in the league, he should be getting more looks. Whether it's those weak side spot ups on the elbow, right? He loves those, or in the corner. Or, just getting him the ball and having him attack those closeouts more off the dribble. Because he makes some great rim reads and finishes, as we've mentioned before. One thing about Grimes is he never goes to the basket without a plan. Whether he's cutting off the ball or driving with the ball in his hand, he's always going with a plan. He's a very good playmaker on the fly like that. But I just think given his skill set, which seems to be at least a little more than just 3-and-D like we initially thought, we can optimize it a lot more. So I was doing some research and I was looking at the shot diet. And the Knicks have a lot of guys shooting more threes than you want. And I get it. You want to modernize your offense and emphasize volume on 3-point attempts and hope that it eventually starts falling, as I just spit, just by pure chance. Kind of like a broken clock twice a day type of thing. But I don't know if that's the best strategy when you just don't have the personnel. So I was looking into it, and in order, you've got Randle, Quickley, Barrett, and Brunson taking the most threes. And then you have Grimes 4th most on the team. Now, Brunson's shooting 40%. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about him. But check out these other guys, man. Randle, and this is just, you could just go to Basketball Reference, whatever site you like, and look up his per game totals, per game averages. Randle shoots below league average from 3, but he still launches 8 per game. Barrett shoots below league average from 3 and launches 6 per game. Quickley shoots below league average from 3, and he launches 5 per game. That's 8 plus 6 is 14, plus 5 is 19. That's 19 threes per game on average, going to guys who aren't exactly elite from 3. Is that really the best use of your offense? Guys who do their best damage inside the arc, in the paint, in the mid-range, taking 50% of the team's 3-point attempts. And that's the number. I did the math. Those 3 guys take 49.7% of the team's 3-pointers. I think Grimes, especially as a guy who doesn't exert all of his energy playing on the ball like those guys do, getting him involved more touches, more reps, can help take pressure off the ball dominant players like RJ, Julius, Quickley, and Brunson too. He's only got a 14% usage rate, which if you look at the 9-man rotation right now, that ranks 6th on the team. So we should probably try getting him some more reps. I also think, and we've mentioned this a number of times in the past, we should try to get our bigs more involved. And it's not just Mitchell Robinson. Of course, I think Mitchell Robinson in pick and roll would be great. Some 3-5 pick and roll with him and RJ. But Obi Toppin too, you know. Kind of tired of seeing him hide in the corner. He's got to be more aggressive. Use him in the short roll. Use him in pick and pop. Get him on the wing, running in the transition. You know, Jericho Sims, maybe use him a little more in the dunker spot. Throw him some more lobs. Hartenstein, he'll still be getting minutes now that Mitch has done a while. I think it's 3 weeks. They said at least 3 weeks, which will probably be a lot more. So Hartenstein, I think, you know, he's a guy who I know in the past has been used as a playmaking big. And Tibbs has used Joakim Noah like that before. So maybe use Hartenstein at the top of the key in that Noah type role, like a playmaking big man when he's out there. And I know that's where he's thrived in the past. You know, use some of these guys in small ball lineups. You know, Obi, if you have Obi in the corner, then have your roller out there and Jericho Sims at least at the same time. You know, use some of these if you're gonna, you know, if we like to do this whole double post lineup where we've got 2 bigs out there at the same time, then why not try running some more double screen sets in the half court? You know, if you run a pick and roll and the defense collapses, why not, you know, kick out to Grimes, who's going to be open on the weak side? It's just like when we run offense, a lot of times we don't go back to what's working. You know, a lot of the times when we run offense, we get our best offense when RJ Barrett's going downhill. But it feels like we don't always go back to that. Why is it that when we go ISO with Brunson and with Randle, and that works, we go right back to it? Even when it doesn't, right? I mean, look at these fourth quarter possessions we've got. It don't always work, and we still go back to the ISO ball. And I just feel like top-tier teams will be able to read that easily, and they'll formulate a defensive scheme that'll just lock you up. And we saw that versus Toronto down the stretch. We've seen that versus a few other teams. Atlanta's done that to us in the past. Just ball movement, man. Ball movement, player movement. Keep moving out there. Way too stagnant. It's just way too stagnant for my liking. And that's just my quick take. I think Thibodeau's offensive playbook is very bland, you know, and maybe could be a little bit better. And again, this is not me putting 100% of the blame on Tibbs for these offensive struggles, but I think it's part of it is coaching and part of it is players needing to do so themselves. Needing to move a little more, needing to pass, screen, cut to the basket a little more. It's half and half, right? Be back after this. We'll get to the bench. Stay right there. BD4 is located on many different platforms. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and if you do there, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and review. You can listen to it on Spotify, but you can also watch the podcast on both Spotify and YouTube. BD4 is available on many other platforms as well. All you got to do is search it up. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and much more. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to episode 467 of the podcast. Thanks for stopping by. So the bench was more the same last night. It was Quickley and nobody else. But Quickley gets a bing bong game ball coming off the bench last night.
Bing bang.
Yeah. He was good. 18 points, 5 rebounds, one steal, and a turnover. 6 of 13 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3 and 4 at the line in 31 minutes. I thought he was very good in the fourth quarter last night. Started off with a hot stretch, couple 3 balls in the fourth. And it was like early fourth quarter when the game was still in reach. Meaningful buckets. He helped cut that deficit down to 7. It was 95-88. The floater was going all night. He did a nice job there, attacking closeouts and throwing it up, drawing contact, finishing. Not much playmaking from IQ last night. The bench does suck, so there is that. And also, there's no lead guard off the bench to where Quickley can have that off-ball role, and we could still run offense effectively. So you kind of have to just give it to him and let him do his magic. But, yeah, I thought he was good. Nothing great, but I thought he was good. And then we'll move on to the other guys, which, again, not much. Obi gave you nothing, 0 points in 14 minutes. The 5 rebounds were nice. Nice change. Instead of leaking out every time, he focused more on staying down low, grabbing a few rebounds. But he's just not being featured, and that's both on his aggressiveness, as we said, and maybe some coaching too. Hartenstein, I thought he sucked. Shocker. Mitch goes down after a few minutes. Hartenstein still only receives 13 minutes in the game. Is that a positive sign? I sure hope so. He's going to play now that Mitch is out, but I hope that means that Sims will be the guy that starts. Sims got 21 minutes. But yeah, this Hartenstein guy, man, all he does is miss floaters. That's all he does. These last few weeks, all he's been doing is missing floaters. And he gets out-muscled on the defensive glass, and I'm kind of tired of seeing that. Without Mitch Robinson, it felt like the Knicks were dominated on the defense, on the glass overall last night. And Washington won, but by like 3 rebounds. It just felt like it was a lot more. So Mitch was definitely missed defensively on the boards for sure. He was on his way to a pretty productive game too. Although I will say Jericho Sims, I thought he provided some good rim protection, a couple of blocks. Does need to work on his positioning and boxing out for those rebounds. But, yeah, I was fine with what I saw from him. And I hope that he's, again, hope, and pray that he's the guy who's going to step into the starting center spot tomorrow night against the Hawks. And I hope you don't do this center by committee garbage. Just go with Sims and let that be that. So we'll talk a little bit more and wrap this up when we get back from break. Stay with us. We also have a website now for BD4. If you go to BD4blog.com, you can find the blog, the podcast links, and also where to find me on social media. Just go to BD4blog.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and you are listening to episode 467 of the podcast. Thank you for stopping by. So, again, as far as Tibbs goes, last night handed minutes to mostly the starters plus Quickley. Why trust your bench for offense when it's just Quickley who can really give it to you? And it's Obi, guy can't do it. He doesn't have a bag. He can't dribble. The shooting's not been the same since the start of the year. He's not aggressive enough down low. He doesn't bang and play that power forward type ball you want to see more. And I don't know. Maybe he's going to take some time coming back from that fracture. I don't know. But right now it's just Quickley. I mean, what do you expect Tibbs to do? And it's not a Tibbs thing. It's a front office thing. We don't have the depth. Go and grab yourselves a bench wing who can shoot and score. We're hearing some rumors about the Lakers. Do not want Westbrook. We are also hearing the Cam Reddish for Reggie Bullock rumors with Dallas starting to heat up. Those aren't really cutting it for me. I don't know that Reggie Bullock is the answer here. Like, he has regressed since his Knicks tenure. And that would just be a pretty blah return for moving Cam Reddish. Because think about how bad of a job the Knicks did with that. Think about it. Leon lets Bullock walk after a great 21-22 campaign. He uses that open spot to sign Fournier. Then he trades a first-round pick for Cam Reddish. And now we'll probably move Cam either for something worse than a first-rounder or for Reggie, a player who you could have just signed outright to begin with. And then you're probably also moving Fournier too, whether that be in 3 weeks or in the summer. just amazing. I want Kuzma. I would take Clarkson. Give me someone who could score off the dribble, shoot, play a little defense, and has some length and size. A little bit of everything. But I would take a Kuzma. I think that's the top guy on my list as far as helping us this season. Obviously, we still need that superstar, but that's neither here or there right now. And I think that's that. We've got Atlanta next, and well, let's hope we can win that game. Because we really botched this easy stretch that I was asking to go 3-2 or 4-1 on. Not looking good. Let's head to our final break. Get back. We'll wrap it up with a trivia. Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ. Let's wrap this one up with our trivia question of the day. Let's get to it. All right, so for episode 467 here, our NYY-NYK-MMA question of the day is, with 129, I'm sorry, that should say 130. That should say 130, not 129. But with 130 double-doubles as a Knick, where does Julius Randle rank in franchise history? Who did he just recently pass this month? So it's a two-part question. It's a two-parter. With 129 double-doubles as a Knick, again, 130, whatever, where does Julius Randle rank in franchise history? Who did he just recently pass this month? All right, so let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. If you get the answer correct, I'll give you a shout-out in the next episode. One final time, with 130 double-doubles as a Knick, where does Julius Randle rank in franchise history? Who did he just recently pass this month? All right. And that's it. I appreciate everybody stopping by. Episode 467's in the books. I am your host, RJ Carbone, and I'll see you in 468 during this Knicks or after this Knicks Atlanta Hawks game. All right. And that'll be that. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you then. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.